Okay, I'm going to try it without the microphone because I have a feeling that might be what's doing it. So let's see if it's working. See if I can turn up the volume a little bit. Okay, I'm going to try it without the microphone because I have a feeling that might be what's doing it. So let's see if it's working. See if I can turn up the volume a little bit. Okay, I'm going to try it without the microphone because I have a feeling that might be what's doing it. Not quite sure why that's not working. Best laid plans and all that. Excellent. You can hear me now. Fantastic. So I don't know if that works for everybody, but hopefully some of you can hear me. If not, this will all be in the recorded version, which you'll get in your emails a little bit later this afternoon. You can hear some background noise. I'm not sure what I can do about that, actually. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, see how it goes. If the background noise is too much, I will see what I can do about that then. Okay, so 5 steps to take before you go freelance. I've been wanting to do this for ages because for me, there's lots of talk about how you can become a 6-figure business and how you can do this and that. But I wanted to create some really practical steps to take before you go freelance, because I know making that decision to do it is the hardest thing, and it feels like a huge risk. It feels like people worry about money and security and all those sorts of things. And I wanted to create a way that would make starting out seem much more approachable and achievable for somebody that is in a full-time job. Okay, so I've got a few slides here that I'm going to work through with you. Let's see if this works nicely. Okay, so a little introduction first. My name's Emma Cossey and I am the freelance lifestyle coach. I'm also a new mum, so I'm very realistic about how easy it is to grow a business, not just when you're on your own and you're just starting out, but also I understand the pressures of working as a freelance mum and having to juggle all the childcare alongside it. I'm very fortunate at the moment that my mother-in-law is here to look after my little son Oscar, but I know for everybody that's not always possible. So this is taking into consideration that with the course and the coaching I'm doing, and also this presentation. Okay, so I've been freelancing for over 7 years now. I started out in editorial. So I started out as a editorial assistant for Parent Dish, and this was way before I even had a kid of my own. And from there on, I went into lots of different pieces, everything from social media management to business training. I actually trained young people in career and social media skills as well. So I've had a huge variety of roles within my freelancing career. And my clients have included Yell, Camelot, the Discovery Channel, Agua Media, where I looked after a couple of blogs there and contributed to a few others, among them Chihuahua and the Bag Lady, Parent Dish UK, and Chocoholics. So I now coach new and established freelancers in starting out, overcoming business blocks, and rocking a great work-life balance. I think one of the key things for me is that we take a step back occasionally, and I think it's very hard when you're a freelancer that you are constantly within your business, and it's quite hard to get an overview. So that's one of the things that's really important that I help freelancers with, and just things like overcoming dealing with difficult clients, being unsure of finances, or just what the first few steps are going to be. So how I started out as a freelancer. So I left university with a degree in business, and I had no idea what to do with it. I took on a job in recruitment and then in HR, and I was not great at recruitment because I was not particularly confident at traditional sales, and then in HR it was one of the worst jobs I've ever had, and it definitely eroded my self-esteem, my self-confidence. I felt incredibly low, and I was going home every day crying, which is absolutely not like me. And at that point, I had no idea what freelancing was, but I knew that I felt like a round peg in a square hole. I felt like very much an introverted person who felt very awkward in the office. I felt like I didn't quite understand the way that other people were working. It was quite a struggle for me working in the corporate world. So I quit. And that isn't necessarily the process I would suggest other freelancers do. It was a bit of a on-the-spot decision. And I would usually suggest that freelancers take a little bit more thought and save up some more money as well before they make the jump. But I also know what I'm like. I know that sometimes I need to push myself out of a situation in order to take action. So I joined Twitter, and I joined Twitter when I was looking around for another job. And to be honest, I thought maybe I'll go into being a receptionist in a hotel or something like that. After being in a job that was quite high stress, I was looking for something that was a little bit more laid back. I'm not sure why I thought working in a hotel would be that, but there you go. And I ended up taking on a couple of internships that I saw through Twitter. And one was for Wahanda, who I've still got fantastic friends from there, and it was fantastic in terms of gaining experience and understanding of the digital world. And I've always been a little bit interested in social media and anything geeky, and I remember reading blogs and listening to podcasts from my first couple of years of university. So it was always something I was interested in, and something sparked in my head that made me realise that actually this is something I could do as a career. I could work in the digital world, I could potentially work from home, and that idea completely blew my mind. And as an introvert, I was in heaven. So from one of those gigs, one of those internships, I was offered my very first freelance role, and that was working for Katie Lee at Miramus, and that's where I ended up working on a project for Parent Dish, among a couple of other things. And from there, it kind of snowballed. I started doing social media for small companies and people I knew, and it kind of grew from there. And I ended up writing for a couple of the blogs that I was reading in my very first year of university. So it ended up being very much a circle for me. But I kind of spent several months of those first few months of freelancing flapping about, trying to work out whether I'd done this whole freelancing thing right. I wasn't sure if I'd done the finances right. I was a bit nervous about the legalities. I wasn't sure if I was pitching correctly or what I should be doing to gain more clients. I felt very lost and I felt quite alone in it. As much as I was enjoying it, I definitely had a bit of a paranoid feeling that I wasn't doing it right. So I want you to know that when starting out, I want your start to be easier. That's my whole purpose. I want you to know what starting out involves, so you're fully informed and not be overwhelmed by the legal stuff, the finances, and most importantly, the buzzwords. I find the buzzwords the most frustrating, and I found everything was so wrapped up in legal language and business language that it made it completely unattainable to the average person. I want you to have support and have somewhere to turn when you hit a speed bump. I want you to have a plan of action so that you can balance pitching to clients with juggling the admin. I want you to have your ultimate freelance life and really enjoy it. Essentially, I help worker bees realise that they can be queen. Okay, so this is something I want to make very clear. Nobody starts out as perfect, and there are so many new freelancers I find who beat themselves up because they're not at the same level as the people who have been doing it for years and years. There is no point comparing yourself to them. You need to just take things at your own pace, accept that you're going to make some mistakes, and I'd like to help you not make some mistakes, but some mistakes you need to make in order to learn from them and grow as a freelancer. So please don't expect yourself to be perfect. Please don't expect yourself to have this amazing, glossy, Instagram-like life at first. Just basically go in with that expectation. Okay, so what is a freelancer? And this is something I've been having a discussion with a few people recently, because a lot of people are unsure what a freelancer is compared to someone who is self-employed or a contractor, and there are all these terms thrown around. According to Wikipedia, that always useful source, a freelancer or freelance worker is a term commonly used for a person who is self-employed and is not necessarily committed to a particular employer long term. So for me, I personally see freelancers as people that deal with contracts, or they deal with several clients at the same time, but they are still self-employed and they can still be a contractor. So all these sorts of terms tend to overlap a little bit. So when I refer to as a freelancer, it could be someone that is self-employed. It could be someone that is a limited company. Myself, I'm a freelancer and I'm a limited company. So it could be a variety of different things, but I'm generally talking about somebody that works for themselves and works for several different clients. So what we're going to cover in this session is, in this webinar, is work out the why, so why you want to go freelance, work out the who, write your Kickstarter plan, get yourself a finance system, because that is really key, and if you mess up early on, it's quite hard to claw back, and plan your pitch slap. Okay, so why do you want to go freelance? So those of you listening in the comments, what kind of things appeal to you about going freelance? If you just make a little comment and let me know why you in particular are thinking about going freelance. I find it's really useful to make a note of these, because there are going to be times when you go through a bit of a tough time, and having them written down that you can refer to can really help remind you of why you're going through these slightly more difficult times. And there are going to be tough times, I'm not going to lie about that, but there's also going to be a lot more wonderful times, and I find it's very much a roller coaster, and rather than just being quite level like you would in a job, it's very much huge highs and the occasional lows, usually around tax return time. Okay, so Francesca says 1 to 4 appeals to me. So a better work-life balance, taking back control of your career, wanting to work from home, wanting to do what you want with who you want, excellent. Working around family is another common one, and wanting to break through the glass ceiling. And that last one usually occurs to people a little bit later on in their freelance career, when they realise that actually they're not limited to the salaries that are being offered in the 9 to 5 employed market. depending on how much you charge and what you do and what the demand is like, you can actually earn a lot more than you would have been able to when you were in a 9-to-5 job, which can be sometimes quite limiting and reliant on getting pay rises or promotions within a company. So better work-life balance. So some people choose to do it because they want to spend less time commuting and more time just doing what they enjoy. They might want to spend more time with a partner. They might just feel like they're in a job which is crazy stressful and they just want to get out of it and do something that feels like it had more of a I'm trying to think of the word. Just something that they find a lot more enjoyable, and that life is short, and why should you spend it doing a job you hate? Taking back control of your career. Again, control comes up a lot for freelancers, and I'm not saying that all freelancers are control freaks, but what I'm saying is that you can often feel a little bit out of control of your career when you're an employee, whereas as a freelancer, you have a little bit more control of what you do, who you do it with, when you do it, where you do it. There's a lot more flexibility. Wanting to work from home. So for me, that's a huge driver, not just because I have my son, but because I am very much a typical introvert, and working from home is how I'm most productive. I also hate commuting. I don't think anyone loves commuting, but I find it soul destroying. Wanting to do what you want with who you want, which we've kind of covered. And again, working through around family is kind of an obvious one. So whilst you're thinking about why you want to do it, you want to think about what your expectations are of freelancing too. So what hours are you expecting to do? And as much as Tim Ferriss likes to suggest that we can all do a 4-hour work week, I don't think that's possible in the first few couple of years of your business, unless you're already completely loaded and you can hire everyone to do it for you. Then that is possible. But generally, I think most people will find that they are working more hours as a freelancer, but they're working more hours because they love it. And they love what they do and they're passionate about it. And actually passion is a huge thing as a freelancer. It's really an exciting and privileged thing to be able to wake up on a Monday and look forward to work. But you need to have an idea of what hours you're expecting to do. How much are you hoping to earn? So do you have to cover certain bills? Do you have a sort of an expectation of what you'd like to earn a month? And again, you may find the first couple of months are a bit more difficult, but hopefully within about 3 to 4 months, you'll be starting to pick up more regular work. And how will you cope not working in a team and being your own boss? So not all freelancers are introverts, and also not all introverts dislike working in teams. And for some people, it can be a little bit of a struggle to adjust to not having that the team support, the banter, the social side of it. So have a think about how you'll cope with that. And I'm not saying you're going to have to give it up, because there are other communities out there as a freelancer. You could work from, there's plenty of amazing co-working venues across the UK now where you can go and work there for a day, and then you'll still have that kind of office team environment, but you'll be working on your own stuff. There are plenty of Facebook groups, and I have one called the Freelance Lifestylers, which is really lovely and supportive, and a place to sort of share your wins and your occasional losses in the group. But also, how will you cope with being your own boss? Because as a freelancer, you're not just doing the core work, you're doing your own finances, your marketing, your admin. So how will you cope with dealing with all those areas? And how do you feel about dealing with things like finances? Are you feeling comfortable? Make a note if there are any other areas you are uncomfortable with, because those are the areas that you might want to look at outsourcing. So work out the why. What support will you have? So does your family support you? Does your partner support you? Do your friends support you? And do you have an online network of support? Now, it's not necessary for your friends to support you, although it's great if you have some friends who are freelancers who get it. And again, the same with family. It's not essential, but it does make life easier if they support what you do. Having a partner that supports you is, I would say, vital, because they're there for those first few months when it's trickier. They understand if you have to occasionally work late or a weekend. And it's just nice to have somebody there that understands what you do and supports you. But an online network, I found personally as a freelancer, the online networks, so Facebook groups and Twitter and all those sorts of things, and the people that I've met through them have been fantastic as a support structure as a freelancer. So have a think about how those sorts of areas, how your family, your partner, your friends feel about support, feel about you freelancing, and where you could find an online network of other freelancers. And can you survive for a few months in terms of finances? So I would advise saving a buffer fund. So that's ideally at least 3 months, if not 6 months, of money set aside to pay for bills and things like that. If not, can you reduce some of your costs? So working from home may help with this. I know some people have huge bills when it comes to their travel and things like that. So working from home will reduce your costs, and you should consider that. But if you have a partner, could they support you for a month or two if the income takes longer than expected? That will be the worst case scenario. I think one of the best ways to do it is to work alongside your current job. So you have to be careful about this and make sure that there's nothing in your contract that says that you can't. But it's worth considering if you can start to work on your business on the side, and then it's not like you're leaving your job and starting completely afresh. You've got something there that's already working. You've got your business ideas put together. You've got potentially some contacts. You might be ready to start a new contract with a client. So it's definitely worth doing something on the side before you make the jump. So then you have to work out the who. So do your research. Who will want to buy what you're selling? So who is your dream client? And I'm not saying you'll be able to work with your dream client all the time, but understanding who your dream client is will help a lot in identifying how you market your business, where you market it, and various other things around identifying your client. So write down who they are, what they do, where they spend time online and offline. So for example, if your ideal client is mums, they're most likely to be looking at things like local newspapers, maybe the message boards, or the boards that you have up in nurseries and community centres and things like that. Maybe flyers. So there's lots of different ways that you could target them. So think about where the people that you would deal with, you'd love to deal with, spend time online and offline. And think about what their needs and pain points are. So what is the most difficult for them that you could, what problems do they have that you could solve? The clearer you are on this, the easier it'll be to tailor your products and services to them. So finding a niche is really important. And the best way to do this is to do a survey. So before you do anything with your business, you need to find out what the demand is. Use tools like SurveyMonkey, which is free, to create a survey to send people. So you do this through Facebook, Twitter, your LinkedIn network, anywhere that you think you'll find those sorts of people, and look at what their problems are. It might not be what you assume it is, and this is quite key. Quite often, the biggest mistake that freelancers and people in general make is to make assumptions about their customers based on their own experiences. A survey will usually throw up things that you never even realized was a problem for people. You also want to look at what they might pay and what they want. So the third step is writing your world domination plan. And I'm not actually suggesting that you go to dominate the whole world, but before you get started, you need to write a business plan. So you need to work out what you're going to do, and you need to be able to summarize it in a sentence. So, for example, I can quite easily say that I am a coach for freelancers to help with their work and life issues. You need to be able to summarize what you do in one sentence, and then it will make it much easier for you to describe to people what you do. And crucially, it's really useful when you explain to family, who are usually the most tricky people to explain what you do to. So in the comments below, have a think about what you would like, how you would summarize your business in one sentence. And I'm going to have one sip of water while you're doing that. So I think it's quite a challenging thing to do, but when you're able to sum up what you do in a sentence, it just makes everything easier. So work out who your clients are, what you sold for them, and it's better to tell people what the result is of what you do rather than what you do in a technical basis. So, for example, you could say, I'm a social media analyst and consultant, and that means nothing to them. Or you can say, I help businesses work out how they can use their social media most effectively to build sales and awareness of their product. So selling them the idea of the result of what you do is a much more effective way of doing it. So Francesca's come up with online content writer and translation localization specialist. So that's fantastic. I don't know what a localization specialist is, actually. That sounds really good. I presume it's around the translation area. But straight away, I know exactly what Francesca does. Okay, so what resources will you need? Do you have everything you need, or do you need to invest in anything? So do you have things as basic as laptops, a laptop and a printer, business cards? Do you need to build a website? Most of the time now you can build a website for free using WordPress, or Instapage is really great as well if you want just a one-page landing page. Online tools. So, for example, I pay for things like Buffer and Free Agent for my invoicing. So there's lots of ways that there's lots of things you need to consider about what resources you will need in the future. So I might have a little blog post on the way for that, just in case you need some ideas of what you might need to include. Think about who your ideal customer is. We've talked about this a little bit, but it's really important that you write a detailed paragraph about your ideal customer. Flesh it out. You could, I know some people do a really visual one where they draw a picture of them and they do all sorts of bits off around it, describing the person and what they're like, whether they're introverted or extroverted, whether they have lots of disposable income or not. Drill down as much as possible, because the better you get to know your potential customer, the easier it's going to be. So you need to work out how you'll find them. So will you find them through social media, local networking events, traditional media? I know networking can be terrifying, and I've got a couple of blog posts that I can share if you're interested in knowing a bit more about how to go into them, especially as an introvert. I know how scary that is, but there are a couple of tricks that you can use to be able to do some networking without feeling completely overwhelmed. And don't forget traditional media as well. I know social media is the sort of go-to at the moment, but traditional media can still be really powerful. And think about what your USP is, so your unique selling point. So how does what you do stand out from the rest? And I know you might struggle with this initially, but think about how you'll experience it, because your experiences are completely unique to you. No one has an experience like you. So that can really help you stand out, and it can help you in dealing with a particular niche of clients. There are lots of ways that your experience can make you stand out. Your clients, so if you're going for a niche, that will make you that can make you be your unique selling point. Your method, so you might have a particular method. So for example, if you end up going into social media, you might have a particular method that you use for getting a really fantastic campaign going, and that could be a real selling point. So you could call it the I know 2Bs have one, which they call the cube method. So anything like that will make you stand out, and it's fantastic from the marketing point of view. And your location can be really beneficial as well. So for example, I don't live in London, I live out in Bracknell, which is near Reading, and being out here means, that makes it sound like it's right in the middle of nowhere, but being outside the capital means less people are doing what I do. There's more kind of interest in what you're doing and describing what you're doing, and I've definitely found it really beneficial generally when it comes to digital media being out here, whereas in London you might get paid a bit more, but I find there's a lot more competition. So actually not being in the big cities can really be an advantage for you. How much will you charge? I know this is a scary one for a lot of people. They're not sure how much to charge. If you are a woman, I would suggest watching Denise Duffield-Thomas's video. She's a lady who runs a business called Lucky Bitch, which is about money and how we deal with money. And she's done a fantastic video about the differences between men and women and how they charge. Men are very much, and this is very much a stereotype, but men generally are very, here is my business, here is my product, here is the price. Very straightforward. Whereas women tend to develop more of a personal attachment to what they sell, which means that we have a tendency to undersell it, to try and bolt on lots and lots of extras to make it justifiable to charge an amount for. We sometimes even offer it for free because we feel guilt about charging for something that we love. It's a really good watch, so I would really recommend watching it. So if you just search for Denise Duffield-Thomas or Lucky Bitch and how we sell, and I think that should bring up the video. Anyway, so how much will you charge? To start with, you may start with lower rates, which is completely understandable. You're building up your confidence and you're building up your experience. So it is fairly normal for people to lower their rates. And most freelancers I know increase their rates on an annual basis. I personally like to do it at the start of the year. I can then say, I'm just reviewing my rates against the competition. Based on my skill set and the market average, I will be increasing my rate to this much. However, if you pre-book, say 3 months, I will keep that at the current rate. So there's a couple of great resources for writers, photographers and broadcasters. LondonFreelance.org has this amazing site where people have contributed what they've been paid by various publications. So if you go on there and have a look through the list, there's loads of huge ones and it will tell you how much they're charging. You can also look at what others charge on their website, which is what I would recommend doing, a little bit of research about what other people are charging. I know it's scary sometimes charging what you might consider to be a high amount, but the cheaper you charge, the less people will value what you do. So say, for example, you are a writer and you write blog posts and you are charging £5 or £10 a post, which is incredibly low. the client won't value you as much. They're also less likely to pay you on time than if you charged £30 or £40 an hour, £30 or £40 a post, or up to £100 a post. If you charged around that amount, they would expect more of you, but they would also appreciate what you're doing more and probably more focused on building opportunities in your business or with your business. So it's really important that you charge a rate that you're worth. And that is something I do work with on clients, because I know a lot of people have a lot of previous issues and limiting beliefs around money. So if something you're concerned about, just drop me an email. Okay, where will you work? So do you have a home office? So I'm doing this webinar from my little home office. I was lucky when we bought this house that we bought a house that had the home office built onto the side of the garage, which is fantastic. And I know there's loads of really cute little wooden home offices that you can get now, or amazing ones you can get, but you don't have to have one. But it does help you kind of switch off and be able to leave work within the office when you finish for the day. What's more likely is that you'll be working from a room at home. So maybe you have a dedicated office within the house. You might be working from a cafe. Co-working venues, as I mentioned, are becoming more and more popular. And if you pop on my blog, freelancelifestyle.co.uk/blog, there is a map on there of some of the most popular co-working venues. But if you just search for co-working venue and your location, hopefully you will find one. I know Regis have some, and they have a huge number of offices all over the UK. And then usually fairly affordable, if maybe some of them are even free as well. And the other option is that you could work from your clients' offices. So if you find that you are working with a particular niche that want you to be in-house, that could be really fantastic, especially if you are more extrovert or you do miss that office banter. Think about, okay, so what you're going to do, what resources you'll need, who your ideal customer is, how you'll find your ideal customer, what your USP is. So these are all the things that we've covered already. Think about what challenges you're concerned about. Is that mine? Yeah. Okay, so what challenges you're concerned about. So what's your biggest concern about freelancing at the moment? So in the comments below, if you could just share with me, what's your biggest concern about going freelance? I'm just going to have a quick glass of water. I was a bit concerned this morning because I woke up with a cold, and a sore throat, and I was hoping my voice would last till today. So it seems to be holding out so far. I mean, the most popular, I wouldn't say popular, but the most common reason or challenge that people find about freelancing is a lot of people are worried about the finances and the security side. And for me, the best thing I can say about that is it's not going to be smooth sailing. I'm not going to tell you that it's as easy as working in a full-time job where you know exactly what you're getting paid each month. But when you're an employee, you on average have about the 30-day notice period. So if you get given your notice, that's it. In 30 days' time, you're out on your own. You've got nothing to back you up. As a freelancer, you might have several different clients who all have maybe 30-day notice periods. Depends what's on your contract. It might be shorter, but you might be working on a project that could be even longer. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket. You're putting them in lots of different baskets, and you're spreading the risk. So although it's not traditionally secure, it can be both more secure in that you're spreading the risk, and also you could potentially be earning a lot more as well. Francesca said failing to find clients and finances. So I've just mentioned the finances side. Clients is definitely a really common one as well. One of the things that I encourage is regular pitching every week. It means that you get into the habit of doing it. It becomes less of a scary thing. What I used to do when I first started was come to the end of a contract and then panic, and then go on a mass pitching session and really panic about it, and then a month later suddenly all the people that I pitched to, suddenly 3 of them or 4 of them will come back at once and say, we want to work with you. And suddenly then I'd be in a panic about how I was going to juggle everything, and it wasn't a very smooth sail. So I would recommend pitching every week. If you end up getting more work than you expect, you can always then outsource a little bit or bring someone in to help you. But getting into the regular habit of pitching each week means that you are more likely to have a steady workload. And I've got lots and lots of ways that you can find new clients on the blog. And in the Facebook group, we also have a Wednesday, Pitch Slap Wednesday, we call it, where we talk about how each of us is going to pitch for new work that week. So if you're looking for a little bit of inspiration, there's lots in there. Okay, other concerns. Working on your own. As I mentioned, it's not for everybody, and you don't have to. So please be aware that you could go for co-working or working in an office space or working in a cafe. There are lots of different options about where you could work. And self-confidence is a really common one, which people don't necessarily always bring up. But when you've been in a job that has made you feel very low in confidence, and lacking in any self-belief for a long time, it can be hard to build up the courage to leave it and go freelance. And actually quite often, these are the people that they will end up going freelance when they've been made redundant, or if there's any other reason why they've had to leave that job. And that's the push they need. But I would love to see more people jumping into freelancing because they feel like it's just as secure as being an employee. Goals and rewards. Okay, these are really important, and it's really common for freelancers not to do this. Not the goal side, but the reward side. So it's really important to set yourself goals. So I would go for short-term goals and long-term goals. Well, short-term, medium, and long. So on a weekly basis, set goals. You probably want to set goals on a daily basis as well, but also on monthly and an annual basis. It keeps you going, it keeps you focused, and one of the key things is that you need to have a reward for achieving those goals. I'm not talking about spending lots and lots of money. You don't necessarily have to, but it's very easy to stumble from goal to goal without rewarding yourself and without reflecting on what you've achieved, and getting to the end of the week and then not being quite aware of what you've achieved. Whereas the reward tends to help bookend that goal. And it could be as simple as saying you're going to go have a nice bath, or you're going to sit down and have a cup of tea whilst watching whatever you're addicted to on Netflix, or even now the weather's getting a bit nicer, just to sit outside for a bit and maybe do a bit of work there or something like that. So when you're thinking about what you want to do in your business, think about what you're going to reward yourself when you've achieved each goal as well. Okay, you need to get yourself a finance system. This is one of the most important things, I would say, when you're looking to launch yourself as a freelancer. Grab yourself a filing set, go treat yourself to one from Paperchase or wherever you like it, and create sections for your invoices, your business bills, and your receipts. You also then need to create a folder in your email to put your online receipts. Look into online invoice accounting systems. I know Wave is free, but I use FreeAgent and I've used FreshBooks in the past. And if you're in doubt about your finances, get an accountant. In terms of planning beforehand, you need to make sure that 30% of your income is put aside, and that will be for your tax and your national insurance. And just, it's useful to have that buffer. You'll probably have a little bit left from that, hopefully, if you've been saving, and then you can treat yourself to something after you've done your tax return. So you need to make sure you're putting that 30% aside. You need to be making sure that you're chasing your invoices on time. And I fell foul to this last year when I was going through the last few months of my pregnancy. I was really unwell and I fell behind on chasing invoices and sending some invoices. I would not recommend doing that. It's very stressful. So get into the habit of invoicing on time. I invoice on the 24th of each month because that means it usually gets in time for payroll for most businesses, so that you then get paid at the same time as all the employees get paid. And basically just be quite savvy and quite strict with your finances, because if you get to a point where you're falling behind on your savings or anything like that, it can have repercussions for years in your freelancing career. And I will confess that in my first year, I didn't put money aside. I kind of each month thought, I'll do it next month, I'll do it next month. And then the tax bill came. And the tax bill you pay in January, and I couldn't afford it. So I put it on a credit card. And then I found it after about another year, I was still paying off this credit card because I wasn't prioritizing money properly. So it's really important that you get into the habit of creating a budget as a freelancer, both for your personal income and through your business, because it will save you so much stress later on. And it's also worth having that with that 30%, I would perhaps have another 10% on top of that of savings. So if anything goes wrong in terms of a client paying late or anything like that, you'll be safe with that little bit of a buffer. I do have terms and conditions which you can find on the website, which will hopefully encourage clients to pay you on time. So I do two things. I have something called a late payment fee. So if somebody pays me late, they may have to pay me a fee. And there's also an early payment discount. So if they pay me within 7 days, they get a 4% discount off their next invoice. And that works much better than the late payment fee. Okay, so I mentioned earlier Pitch Slap Wednesdays. You need to plan your pitch that you're going to give to people. And I mentioned earlier about being able to summarize what you do in a sentence and explaining what your services help people with. So another example here is, I help businesses use social media to boost their visibility, improve customer service and increase sales through management and strategy, rather than I'm a social media consultant. So think about the results rather than your technical job title. And put a regular pitching slot in your calendar. So make sure that you know, so for me, it's every Wednesday. I have to do something towards building my business. For you, you might find Monday mornings are best. I wouldn't recommend doing it on a Friday because it will never happen if you do it on a Friday. And personally, I use Fridays for admin and finance. So I try and do that in the morning, and then I can hopefully, if I do it on time, have the rest of Friday afternoon off. And just as one more bonus, as part of these 5 steps, is create a freelance support network. So it's so important to create a network of freelancers who get it, because you will find a lot of people in your life will say things like, when are you going to get a real job? Just generally they will ask when you'll get a real job. That will happen for several years and you're first going freelance. How are you doing for money? Suddenly it becomes acceptable for people to ask you about money. And oh, I couldn't do that. I'd sit at home and watch Jeremy Kyle all day. And I really wouldn't recommend watching Jeremy Kyle while you're doing work, because sometimes some of the words in Jeremy Kyle slip into your emails and it gets a bit awkward. So it's really important to have a network of freelancers who get it, and they know the struggles of dealing with your late paying client, or somebody that's got expectations that are not matched to what you have, and can sort of celebrate all the wins as well. So I've mentioned this before, but the Freelance Lifestylers Facebook group is free to join. So just search for the Freelance Lifestylers, or once you join my mailing list, you'll also have access to that as well. It's a really funny group. Mondays we set goals for the week, and Friday you can promote what you've got, whatever you've got on offer with your business. And we tend to have some questions scattered through and people share information, but it's not spammy at all. I'm really proud of that group. It's really supportive and friendly, and there's no nastiness. And that's one other thing actually that freelancers often worry about, which is the competition. And my experience is it doesn't feel competitive. People are very supportive of each other. And that's how that group feels. Okay, so just to summarize with the 5 steps to take before you go freelance. So let me just take us back to that bit. So we talked about the work out the why, so why you want to do this, and that's really important so that you can reflect back on it when times are a bit difficult. Work out the who, so who are you going to be selling to? We talked about writing a really solid plan so that you know what you want to do. Technically, it could be considered a business plan, but I would just suggest that you want something that gives you an idea of what you're doing and that you can reflect on. Get yourself a finance system. I cannot recommend that enough. Before you get started, make sure that you're ready with your finances so that they can just slot in nicely. And plan your pitch slap. So be able to summarize what you want to do in just a sentence. There must be a faster way of flicking through these. Anyway, so just to finish off, because I know we're getting to the end of the hour, I just want to let you know about a couple of things I offer. I offer a range of coaching and courses for freelancers. So I've recently qualified as a coach. And for me, I really want to work with freelancers or anybody that wants to go freelance. So I offer support, accountability, goal setting, and mentoring. And I can also help you overcome limiting beliefs that hold you back. So there are a variety of limiting beliefs that are around freelancing, everything from I'm not good enough to nobody will pay me that. There's lots of limiting beliefs, and it's something I work on quite a lot with other freelancers. So if that's something of interest, do let me know. And I also have the Freelance Lifestyle School, which is a hub of different courses from my 30-day e-course, which takes you through all of the steps, the 30 steps that you should take within your first month of freelancing. So everything from registering your business, there's a bit in there about terms and conditions, but there's also things about marketing and things like that. To my pitching e-course and also my 4 weeks of freelance habits. And that freelance habits course is actually free. So if you want to go, if you go to freelancelifestyle.co.uk, on the top there is a bar that says the Freelance Lifestyle School. Just need to have a quick drink of water. Okay, so I have a very special offer just for you to say thank you for listening. I'm going to be offering the 30-day freelance lifestyle e-course. So this is the e-course that takes you through the first 30 days of your freelance business, and that's worth £39, and a 1-hour coaching session, which is worth £249, and a month of email support. So I'll be available if you have any questions in the month after you started the course. And that will be just £99, and that's for the next 24 hours. After that, I'm going to still have it at a lower price, but it will be £159 until Friday the 29th at 7 p.m. So if you're interested, just drop me an email, hello@emmacossie.com. I'll also be sending you a quick email with the replay for this, so that you can just book it on there if that's easier. So any questions about freelancing? Because I know there's a few things people are sometimes worried about. So I just thought I'd open this up in case you have any questions. So you just need to drop your information, the question in the chat wing at the bottom of this page. You can also tweet them to me at freelance_life or Emma_Cossie. So I'll just give you a minute to do that. Okay, we've got a question. What do you think of websites which offer listings for freelance gigs? They mostly seem to offer less than minimum wage opportunities. Okay, so I'm assuming you mean people like people per hour, although I think they're Elance now, and Fiverr and people like that. Mixed opinions. I know these sites are now tightening up and they're not quite as cheap as they were. I also know a lot of the reason that that price is driven down is because of people in third world countries where the value of that money is higher to them. I personally haven't found a lot of business that way. So it's worth trying if you're looking to just build up a little bit of a portfolio, but if you've already got a portfolio, I wouldn't say it's necessary. Fiverr can actually be really fantastic if you want just very quick tasks done as a freelancer. So if you want something tweaked on WordPress and things like that. But yeah, I do have quite mixed feelings about it. And personally, I've found most of my work comes through referrals, my website. So having good SEO on your website really helps, or good copywriting, that helps obviously as well. Yeah, refer to social media a little bit. I haven't found I've really got much in social through any of those kind of listing sites, the freelance marketplaces. It might be different for different kind of, depending on what market you're in, and I think it's worth trying. One thing People Per Hour or Elance did at one point, and I think they still do it, was an hourly, which is where you set up one task and the price that you charge for it. So at least then you know you're not going to get bargained down. So it doesn't hurt to do that, but I wouldn't concentrate your efforts on that. I would personally concentrate your efforts on real life networking, because people buy from people that they get to know. There's a theory that you have to have 7 contacts with someone before they buy something from you, but I find with networking it definitely speeds that up. So the first thing I would suggest is going to networking. The second is social media. Make sure you're out there. Join some Facebook groups. Yeah, and make sure that your friends and family know what you do. So send them a quick email and say, this is what I'm doing as a freelancer. If you know anyone that would be interested, do let me know. And you'll be surprised at how much work can come from that as well. So yeah, I would say it doesn't hurt to try them, but I wouldn't concentrate on them. And I would agree that they do mostly seem to offer less than minimum wage opportunities. So the hourly kind of gets around that, but I wouldn't focus too much effort on those. So I hope that answers that question. If there's no other questions, I will finish this off. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me for the webinar. I hope it was useful. You can find me online on various places. My coaching website is the freelancelifestylecoach.co.uk. My blog is freelancelifestyle.co.uk. You can find the Facebook page at facebook.com/freelancelife, and Twitter. I'm usually on there, twitter.com/freelance_life, or you can find my personal one, Emma_life. That's a lot more baby chatter though, so it depends how you feel about that. And I really do welcome emails, so just drop me an email, hello@emmacossie.com, if you have any questions. Thank you very much for joining me.